In the wake of Donald Trump's historic presidential win, a few people on the left are out there like Stephen A. Smith saying, you know what, this is a complete defeat of the Democrat Party and the Democrat platform. We have to go back to the drawing board, figure out what's wrong, and hopefully try to fix it. Now, honestly, I personally hope they don't, because I simply love the messaging the left has been giving, all right? But luckily, many people are still in complete denial, have devolved into finger pointing, and of course, it's obviously Donald Trump's fault. How in the world could America vote for a racist, Nazi, fascist person? And of course, they can't seem to recognize a problem with their own policies and agendas. So of course, today we're going to go ahead and see this played out in full form. So please like and comment on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
Because while 91% of black women voted for Kamala Harris, 53% of white women overall voted for Trump, despite the open disrespect and demonization hurled by J.D. Vance and the Supreme Court stripping women's bodily autonomy, courtesy of Donald Trump, who closed his repulsive campaign by dropping the B word on Nancy Pelosi. The breakdown by education was stark. Harris won 57% of white women with college degrees and lost 63% of white women without them. It was also men. Trump won every age group of men, including 60% of Gen X men and 6 in 10 white men. Also Latino men, who despite the utter disrespect shown by Trump and his promise to deport some of your mixed status families, most of them voted in a 55% majority to make the deportations happen. Y'all voted with Stephen Miller and David Duke and against your own sisters and chose Kamala Harris with 60% of their votes. So you own everything that happens to your mixed status families and to your wives, sisters, and abuelas from here on in.
I'm just going to say it, and I know I'm about to get a lot of hate on Twitter for saying this, but it's not just working class people. It's a conversation we need to have with white women. Like, what is happening? You know, and for Hillary Clinton, 53% of white women voted for Donald Trump. And this year, 57% voted. And I think there was this belief that white women would come over to Kamala Harris because of Roe, because they did do that in 2020, but it wasn't at the presidential level. It was at the Senate and House races and in governor's races. And then the final thing I'll just say is that there is a lot of talk about soul searching. And when you lose, you know, I like sports, like you run the tape, you study what you did wrong. And I think Democrats should do this. But I just have to say, I don't think Republicans did soul searching after they lost in 2020.
Those pesky males and white women, why didn't they come out and vote for Kamala Harris, right? She clearly had the better, clear, concise answers for what she was going to do to improve the economy, reduce inflation, close the borders, have world peace. Oh, wait, she didn't have clear and articulate answers for any of that. Instead, she had a whole bunch of talking points that she reverted into every single time she was asked about it. Nothing different, nothing new, no clarification. It was the same empty suit answers. There was no substance. And everyone said, yeah, I think I'd rather go with the guy we know did a good job 4 years ago, okay? And here we are today. And also notice the break in highly educated white women voting for Kamala Harris. What does that tell you? Possibly that they've been indoctrinated by these higher learning institutions, okay? And also the 90% of black women that went for Kamala Harris. When 90% of your group agree on something, it's either a really good idea or a really bad one. And I would say it's a bad one because compared to the rest of the demographics, there was only one that went in such big, overwhelming numbers for one of the candidates. And I'd urge them to maybe rethink their positions because maybe they have some flawed reasoning, some flawed thinking in all of this, okay? But of course, the left still doesn't want to hear this, even though it's right there in their faces.
For everybody out there wanting Trump to pivot or change or somehow whatever you want him to do, he just won a mandate from the American people to execute on the program that he laid out in this election. It wasn't particularly close. And I think he ought to put people in place who are going to do it. That's what the people are asking for.
Who will go after his enemies? I mean, that's
not what he ran on.
Yes, it did. It is explicitly what he ran on.
That's not what he ran on.
Look at what he said in the past week. He literally said that he was going to exact vengeance.
You still don't understand how you lost. He ran on immigration.
Don't say me. I'm not a Democrat.
He ran on immigration.
I'm a journalist.
He ran on inflation.
I'm not here paid to represent
one of the many things he ran on in addition to
he ran on the issues that people care about. He ran on the economy. He ran on
nobody's saying that he didn't run on those things, but he also ran on vengeance.
Yes.
He did also run on going after the people who went after him.
And journalists.
It was a key feature of all of his speeches.
Yes,
Scott, he literally said, I am your retribution, the Biden crime family, lock her up. Went after Sessions repeatedly for not doing what he wanted Sessions to do, which was to indict Hillary or whoever he wanted to indict.
You can want his campaign to have been about, tax reform and things like that. That is not what he said on the stump. Time after time after
And
time.
also
He talked about going after his enemies.
I'm heartened by the fact that the left still cannot figure this out.
Even if you just take the January 6th part of it, he made that a big part of his campaign, that he would, if he were in power, pardon those people. You can't say that that was not on the agenda. It absolutely was.
What was the campaign about? Why did
Okay, but do you think that he's
going
to do those other things when it comes to the Department of Justice?
I don't know what he's going to do. I'm not.
A big part of the campaign was being a victim. Like, that was a big part of it, was his victimhood. They're coming for you, but they're going to have to get through me. That was his whole line. That is all about the enemies list. That is all.
I totally disagree.
The deep state. This is the stuff that he talked about on the stump. Unless you just don't want to listen to him. Those are his own words.
I listen plenty.
If you believe that people who violated the Capitol on January 6th committed a crime, which I would hope you would, because they weren't invited in the way they claimed they were, right? They were not there. They didn't go through security the way the rest of us have to go through to get into the Capitol. They were prosecuted. They were convicted. And now they're serving jail time. And he has said repeatedly that they're political prisoners and he is going to spring them, right? What does that tell you about how he's going to weaponize the Justice Department, and on whose behalf? On behalf of people who committed crimes for him, not for anybody else.
I mean, I admire your, I don't know if I want to call it naivete or optimism, that Trump is going to run on the policies you care about deregulation and tax cuts and whatnot. That's just not what his campaign was about.
Well,
That's not what he has indicated.
With all due respect, I've run more campaigns than you, and I know what campaigns are about, and I know why people walk into voting booths.
Why people walk
wrong.
into voting booths and what Trump plans to do when handed the presidency are two different things.
This is actually a pretty interesting exchange. On one hand, you have Scott Jennings sitting there saying, hey, Donald Trump has an agenda that he ran on, that he won, all right? And clearly it was a mandate, popular vote, electoral vote, House, Senate, right? It's all there for him. But all of these journalists who are definitely not Democrats, right? They're all worried about what Trump's going to do aside from the agenda he actually ran on, okay? They're not worried about what their party did wrong. And I love how Scott Jennings puts in that little dig. Thank goodness you're not learning from this. I love it, okay? However, there is a little bit of truth to what the left is saying. Yes, Donald Trump is going to go after the enemies within, the people who are trying to subvert our democracy, the ones who actually maybe colluded with big tech, with big media, with the DOJ, with the FBI. Let's say there actually was some type of arrangement out there to go ahead and get Donald Trump. Wouldn't we want to see that uncovered? I mean, after all, the FBI was targeting Catholics. The FBI was targeting parents, right? The FBI was going after people on January 6th who, by the way, never even went into the building, all right? So yes, Donald Trump did say a whole bunch of stuff, but in the correct context, it all makes perfect sense to his followers. Yes, they really want to get you, but they have to go through me first, right? It makes perfect sense. But thank goodness these people aren't actually talking about fixing their own problems, fixing their own party, fixing their own platform, because that'll just make it easier to win in 2028 with maybe J.D. Vance. Who knows? But let's go ahead and finish this off with a little insight from Frank Luntz.
Yeah, I know you've taken a very close look at all the exit polling. What are your top takeaways right now?
Most important is the Latino, the Hispanic vote. I was shocked to find out that Trump actually won a majority of male Latinos. There is a huge gender gap, as there is in every single break. But Trump is able to win a majority. I think that's the first time that I know of that any Republican has been able to do something like that in more than 30 years. So that was number one. Number two is that young women under age 30 only represented 7% of the sample. For Harris to be successful, they needed to draw a major turnout because the spread there was almost 2-1 in favor of Harris. So you have to make that something bigger. And third was the fact that in the end, abortion was a relatively low priority issue. She was dominating there, but that if it doesn't matter to voters, then it doesn't matter if one candidate has a tremendous lead. Those would be my three great takeaways.
that pretty much sums it up. Donald Trump improved with men across all demographics, specifically with Latino voters. Second, of course, that women apparently didn't turn out in the numbers that Kamala needed. And third, apparently abortion was not the issue the left thought it would be. Something I've been saying on this channel for quite some time. What are the main issues? Immigration, the economy, inflation, world peace, right? Those are the big things people really cared about, not democracy and abortion like the left thought. But the good news is the left apparently isn't going to figure this out, which means we're safe for the future. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and stay safe out there, people, because they're coming after you.